joining us right now is Father Jonathan Morris. Way too many Morrises for my taste here. Oh, more. That's right. Did I say more, Morris? That's
Merry
funny.
Merry Christmas, Father.
Merry Christmas, Father Jonathan Morris.
Good morning, and hope almost happy Merry Christmas. We
Yes.
would say in the Catholic Christian tradition, Happy Advent as well, Blessed Advent.
Amen to that. And Father Morris, I want to jump right into this Duck Dynasty story because, so many people are talking about the Bible these days, which I guess is a good thing. And I'm sure that you have never in your homily used some of the words and delivery that Phil Robertson of Duck Dynasty used. But that's because you're not from Monroe, Louisiana. I wonder when I saw your heartfelt explanation of your sister's lesbian marriage and what it meant to you and your family, and how it is challenging to hold the values and morals that you hold as a Christian believer, and yet at the same time, you're not of this world, but you are in this world, and that means you do have to wade your way through what happens in our society. Talk to me about your unique take on Phil Robertson.
Sure. Well, there's a couple issues there. One is you brought up my sister, so I should mention that first. I love her obviously very, very much. We disagree on homosexual marriage, but it's been a wonderful opportunity for she and I to discuss these issues in a deep and loving way. And with regards to Phil Robertson issue, she wrote to me the very morning that this started breaking, and she goes, I'm really uncomfortable with A&E and GLAAD that pretending to represent all of us, saying that this is that he should be cut because of his expression of his biblical views, even though they weren't done in a very and I'll explain that in a second, in a very good or even accurate way. She said the reason is because as the gay community, we're constantly, and I would say rightly, fighting for tolerance. And that hasn't always been the case. And we need to recognize, too, that we need to be tolerant of other people who disagree with us. And even when they do it in a way that is not, as I said, very appropriate or even accurate. And so that's the relationship with my sister, and he had the whole dynasty.
When it was so moving to hear you say that, but I do want to get into the accuracy thing, because I heard a lot of people saying, listen, the Pope was just Man of the Year for Time Magazine, and Pope Francis pretty much believes what this Duck Dynasty guy believes. Is that true?
Yes and no. I said it wasn't totally accurate because, certainly I am very grateful for Phil Robertson being unafraid to speak the truth, even about a very delicate, tough issue like homosexuality. When they asked him very specifically, why GQ is asking him very specifically, what is sin, a pretty serious theological question. First of all, I should say my answer to what is sin would be something very simple like a willful offense against God. But how did, let me say it again, a willful offense against God and his laws. But what was Phil Robertson's response? At least what was printed was, begin with homosexuality, he said, and it morphs out from there. And then he went and listed a lot of things, including being unfaithful to your wife, including bestiality, and you're quoting the Bible, certainly not precisely, but certainly quoting what the Bible teaches. But when you start out the answer to the question, what is sin, with, begin with homosexuality and it morphs out from there, what it comes across as you're saying somehow homosexuality is at the core of what sin is, or that's the first sins among all sins, or something like that, and that certainly is not accurate.
Father, I want to change the subject a little bit and talk about my favorite subject, which is the free enterprise system. And
go for it.
Look, I want to run an idea by you, and I want your thoughts on this. That a lot of what the Pope was saying was kind of lost in translation. And,
you mean his comments about capitalism and trickle down?
The statements about capitalism and this idea of trickle down economics. Father, I don't think that the Pope ever said trickle down economics. I think that was, in translations that were done. Is this a Pope who is against the free enterprise system, against prosperity? How do we, as Catholics, I'm a Catholic myself, who believes in the power of markets and free enterprise, can we be a good Catholic and believe in the free enterprise system?
Great. I'm glad you asked the question. First of all, the Pope never used the word capitalism in his document that he put out, Evangelii Gaudium. But you know what he did use? He actually did use trickle-down economic theory. And he was very specific about it, and they followed up with him later. Now, what did he say about those things? When he didn't say capitalism, but he talked about the market. And what did he say about the market, about the free market? He said we have to be careful of theories that suggest an unfettered free market. First of all, I don't know anybody in the capitalist world who is for an unfettered, meaning no regulation whatsoever, free market.
I know some people, but
okay. Well, I think we recognize
I understand.
that
right.
there are necessary regulations. Otherwise, when you go to the grocery store, you're going to be you're going to be worried about what you're going to eat. Okay, or when you go to the pharmacy, you should be very worried about what you're going to receive. Right? We recognize that certain regulations are necessary. But what the main point of the Pope's talk about the free market and about the trickle-down economic theory is, if we think that the free market, or if we think that even trickle-down economic theory is going to take care of everyone, we're mistaken.
Right.
And there's going to be some people who are always left out of the equation. He never said, I'm against the free market. He never said, I'm against capitalism. He never even said, I'm against trickle-down economic theory as a solution, or as a recognition that capitalism actually brings huge numbers of people out of poverty. And then when he was followed up in the next interview, specifically by an Italian journalist referring to American commentators, and we should thank the Italian journalist for this, he said, in America, some people are now saying that you're a Marxist. Is that true? His response, very simple, 2 lines. He said, 1, the Marxist ideology is wrong. First line. Second line, I do know some very kind or nice Marxists, so I won't be offended if they call me a Marxist. I thought it was genius.
Yeah.
In other words, saying, hey, guys, even somebody who has a very wrong ideology, hey, let's not demonize everyone.
I think the problem is, I feel very passionately about this. And look, I'm in favor of, I don't use the term trickle-down economics, but supply-side economics, tax rate reductions to get businesses to hire more workers, and that profit is not a dirty word. That's where the wealth of this country comes from. But it seems to me, Father, that what's happened is the Pope is from Argentina. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
And so I think what's happened is capitalism, free markets have gotten a bad name in Argentina because so many of the economic problems are blamed on capitalism when it isn't really capitalism and free markets and free enterprise that they have in those countries.
Fair enough. And he also talks about corruption that happens in a capitalist society, for example.
What about corruption and socialism?
Absolutely, absolutely. But talk about, you mentioned Argentina. I mean, Latin America has been full of corruption for a very long time. If you want to understand Pope Francis and why he says these things, I think there's one way to understand it. He's saying, I am willing to risk being misunderstood with the hope that people get the core message of what I'm saying. And that message, what is it for Pope Francis? It's God is in love with every one of us. He's in pursuit of every one of us. The doors to the church should be open to all. And when you get into that church, the message you should hear is love, forgiveness, redemption, conversion. That's Francis.
And Father Jonathan Morris, a great message to leave it at here 2 days before Christmas. Yes,
Christmas.
A blessed Advent to you, and thanks for joining us. I hope you have a great Christmas.
You guys got me all riled up so early in the morning. My God.